Today I'm going to give a lecture that's super important about citing sources, about the Modern Language Association rules, and why we use them. It's longish, so settle in and get ready for this lecture. Super important though. So for academic studies to be valid, there's a whole process to go through. If you remember anything from your science classes, you remember that scientists have a hypothesis, something that they think might be true. They have to create some kind of study to prove that it's true. They have to create the conditions to test a new idea and create similar conditions where they don't test that idea to see the status quo versus this new thing and how it works, right? So they have to create systematic studies to prove any of their hypothesis, a claim is true, what they think might be true. And for it to be taken at all seriously, for it to be valid, in fact, these studies must be replicated. They have to be replicated by someone besides the original person who created the study. And in order for anything to be replicated, of course, that means the process has to be very well documented, right? Must be precise so that the person coming behind them can also try to go through the same process and therefore arrive at the same results, making the hypothesis a valid hypothesis. In the arts, to be taken seriously, the arts want to go through the same kind of rigorous process. So to make an argument, you have a thesis, and then you systematically consider evidence from that art, from whether it's a book or a poem or a painting or music or anything else. But you still have to have, this is what I claim, this song was influenced by this song, which was influenced by this idea, which was whatever your claim is. You still have to show your thinking process for it to be valid, so that someone who comes behind you can also see exactly where you got your information. You can go back and maybe not replicate it, but at least go back to see what your sources are to validate what you have, what your thesis is, your hypothesis, your thesis is. So how do we do that? We'll stay here as we want to replicate our process. We have to write down or document everything we are saying. And so we do that by citing in the arts our sources, by saying where we got them. And there's two parts of this citation process. One is called the in-text citation, where you tell the reader, right in your essay itself, whose ideas you're responding to, what conversation you joined. That's how we've put it. I give an example here, some of putting that into your in-text, into the essay itself. And then at the end of your essay, usually, you have a list of sources where the reader must be able to find, using the information you give, they need to be able to find the same information that you have. So it would be too disruptive to put this list in the essay itself, and so usually it comes at the end. And then what you put is all the publication information, all the information that someone who wanted to go and find that source for themselves would need to be able to find it. Today it's become much easier, right? We can now actually just do links and link your readers to the article itself when we publish online. We haven't gotten to that point quite yet in college completely. The pandemic has made it so that may be something we move to a lot quicker. But for now, you have to be able to just give someone the same information so that they went and typed in the information in their library database or in their Google search, they would be able to find it too. So they could find the same source that you used and see if you used it accurately, if you understood it and used it appropriately. That's the idea. We want to be rigorous and show where we got all of our information. So all this idea of documentation, people want to start being rigorous, they want to document, but in attempting to document, there are lots of different methods for doing so. So the Modern Language Association, which is a professional organization for English professors and linguists, they came up with a uniform way of documenting these sources. They are not the only one. The American Psychological Association did the same thing, the APA. And then at the University of Chicago, professors there came up with their own style of documentation. And these are the three most used in academic writing. And we use MLA because we're in English, and it again is the most frequent. If you don't use MLA documentation, if you're writing an English paper or writing in the humanities, you're probably going to use the Chicago style. But today and in this semester, we'll be talking about MLA. All three styles require the same basic information, right? To be able to find the source again, you need to know the author's name, the title of the article or the book, where it was published, so if it was where it was published as a book, or if it was published within a journal or within a book, the year that was published, so you know if someone else had a similar title, you could still find it by the year, and then any other information like the volume, the page number, the permalink. That's actually becoming the most useful, like I said. I think eventually that will become the only bit of information you need, but for now, this is the information you have to have. And so in MLA, the author is the most important bit of information. Giving that person credit is the very most important thing. So in the text itself, in your essay, you always state the author's full name the first time you use it, and you use their last name every time after that. And then at the end of the essay, you put the author's name as the first thing people should see when they're looking for a source, when they're looking, where did they get this information? Oh, it was written by someone named Adams. Well, let me look on this list. It's alphabetical. I'll easily be able to find Adams as the first name, so then I will be able to find it easily. At the end, we have our list of sources, and MLA, it's called a works cited page. It comes at the end of the essay with continuous pagination, which means if your essay ended on page 4, the works cited page appears on a separate piece of paper on page 5. It is given the number 5 for its page number. So here's a sample entry for the MLA. This is the same entry we saw on our annotated bibliography page. So you can see some of the key information here, right? The last name goes first. Et al. Just means all the rest. So if you have more than 2 authors, you put that there. If you had 2 authors, you would say one author and then a second author. All the important words are capitalized in the title of the article and in the title of the publication. Articles have quotation marks around the titles. You can see them here. And longer titles of longer things like a journal or a book, they are italicized. Then you put the other information, you know, what volume. This probably means that this journal has been published 51 years. This is the 4th one of that year, and that's the year it was published in 1986, and those are the pages. So if you went to that journal, you would have to look not just at the journal, but also the volume, the number, the year, and in those pages you would find the exact article listed there. The year of the publication comes almost last, right before the pages. And the only thing this entry is missing is the permalink, some kind of location that, again, your reader today would be able to just click on and find. They wouldn't have been able to do that back in 1986. So the other things to notice are that after the first line, everything is indented, right? It went over to here, and then it is indented. That's how you indicate that you've done a new entry. You don't ever use bullets on a works cited page or numbers. But this is one sample entry. The same information in the American Psychologists Association would be a little bit different. You put everybody's name there. Oh, I got that wrong. You do not put their first name. They don't spell out their names. So you put everybody's name, all the people who are there. Then you put the year. That is the second most important information. So you put that there. And then the title has no quotation marks around it, and only the first word is capitalized, though in the journal name it is also capitalized. And you still indent after that first line. You can see what that might look like in APA. Okay, so in-text citation. In the text means in the essay itself, right? Again, just a quick review. The first time you reference a text in the body of the essay, you include the author's full name. If there's more than one author, you name them both. If there's more than two authors, you just say et al. And then you also give the full title of the article in quotations. So I've given you an example. So in red, right, Michael J. McKenzie et al. Show in their article, quote, Spanking and Child Development Across the First Decade of Life, that, and then there's a quotation. And then here I take a shortcut and I just say discuss the quotation. All right, and then later on you might say McKenzie et al. Later add, and then here's another quote. And then you'd have to have your discussion after that too, but I just want to show you here. The first time you say it, you've got the author's full name and the full name of the article. After that, it's just their last name. That's it, because you'll be able to find that information later on. So that's how you do an in-text citation. Now let me show you the same thing and your works cited page. So your works cited page won't look exactly like this because, quite frankly, it's a PowerPoint slide. But you do put the top in bold. You don't do all caps. Nothing in MLA is all caps. And you can see our entry here, but it's only one of 3 entries. You have to actually do 4 because you have to have at least 4 sources for your essay, your research essay. And we see all the same information, right? So in this entry too, see how it's alphabetical. Her name starts with the G, so she gets to go first. Then Mackenzie, then Palmer. She is the only author, and this is the name of the article she wrote. This is the location it was in, the journal name, the volume number, the number that it was in, the year it was published, and the pages. And then here's the link to it. It's the same every time. Authors, title, publication, where else to find it, and specifically, hopefully, a link, right? So this would also be different on the page because all of them are indented, that's true, but you would also double space everything. So your actual works cited page will not look the same. The most important thing I want you to take away from this lecture is, number one, that the information has to go, all the information that you need to be able to find a source again in MLA has to be put in an exact order. The periods matter, the punctuation, the commas, where you put the commas. So here, for example, last name, comma, first name, T, period. Then a period after the end of the title, quotation mark. Then the title of the journal, then a comma, then volume number, then period. All of that matters. It's the kind of thing that does matter, so you have to be exact. That's the first thing I want you to learn, is that you have to be very, very precise in your listing of these sources on the works cited page. The second thing I want you to learn is that you don't have to memorize this at all, right? That isn't something you have to memorize. It's just something that you need to be aware of. And then there are plenty of sources to help you figure out how to do it. The best thing is to go on the libraries and find, they actually have citation helps on the first page. And you put in the information and it will come out the way it's supposed to for the most part. So most important ideas here are that this is specific, exact information you have to include in a works cited page, and you don't need to memorize it. You can research it and find it so that you can then make a works cited page. So this information is all going to go on your works cited page, which comes at the end of your essay. In addition, as we've already talked about, our annotated bibliography assignment, you're going to have the exact same entry here, except you're going to single space it like it is here, and then you're going to do your summary of each one of these articles, right? That's what an annotated bibliography. An essay would not work that way. So both of this, the form here that we see, the specific form, will be the same for the works cited page and for the annotated bibliography. We'll continue to talk about the MLA citations, citing sources, and the importance of it. But this is a good introduction for why we have these rules, why they exist at all, what the Modern Language Association was trying to do, when they created these rules. And though they are very exact and specific, it helps keep everything uniform, which I think is very important. So again, we'll continue to talk about this, but this is a good introduction.